They're cocoa beetles from Zanzibar. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I honestly can't see currently with these glasses on, but I kind of wanted to make it a little bit fun, a little bit creepy, especially for the intro of this video. So, if you can't already tell, I am kind of dressed up as the other mother, but of course with my long hair because her hair is much shorter and I don't plan on cutting it and I don't have a wig. I kind of wanted to do something very fall themed, very Halloween themed, and so because of that, wanted to go and wear my glasses that Charles and I actually used for our other mother and other father costume that I believe we did last year for Halloween. But in this video, we are going to be rereading Coraline. I read this book, I believe, a few years ago. I can't talk with these glasses, I don't anymore, they're kind of trippy. I read this book 3 or 4 years ago and I wanted to read it again. Coraline is one of my absolute favorite stories. I know it's one that definitely scares other people and creeps them out. Some people love the movie, but they haven't read the book, they're scared to read the book, or they've read the book and they're completely scarred by it. But yeah, I wanted to go and reread this book and then go and watch the movie. I know the movie so well. I basically know every single word, every single quote to the entire movie, but I remember that there were some differences between the book and of course the movie. And so I thought it would be fun to reread this, then watch the movie and kind of do a comparison to see what parts were a little bit different, if my thoughts on the book have changed, and if they've stayed consistent, I guess, the whole time. So this will be actually another part of the series where we reread books that I've read in the past. This book wasn't necessarily a 5-star read for me, but the movie, however, is a 5-star. So there's a little bit of wiggle room for this, but yeah, we're gonna go and reread this. I'm also gonna change back out of this outfit because it is very toasty. But with that being said, can't wait to reread this book. I also realized I didn't really talk about what Coraline is about. So with Coraline, we follow a younger girl who just isn't really happy or satisfied with the way her life currently is. She kind of wishes that things could be different, and suddenly she finds this door and ends up going through it and discovers that she has an other mother and an other father. Everything is the same but different. Like, everything is so fantastic and amazing in this different world. And with the book, it's a little bit creepier than the movie. It's not as magical right away, and with the book, the other mother really wants to hold on to Coraline right from the beginning, right from the get-go. So she has to use her wits and her courage to go and outsmart the other mother. So yeah, just to give a little bit of some information for those of you that aren't familiar with Coraline. But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna start reading it, and hopefully Cicero will stop messing with my mic. Oh, and the book edition that I have is the 10th anniversary edition. I definitely want to get a few different ones that I've seen, but you know me and my book addiction. We have this picture on the inside with Coraline and the Wuspus. Ooh, so this says, "Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten." By G.K. Chesterton. And I love the fonts. It's so pretty. So cool. So there's like this little blurb at the beginning where it's talking about Neil Gaiman and how he had wrote this book for one of his daughters, Holly, but then kind of put the book down and they went and moved into a different house, and he realized he needed to finish this book, otherwise his other daughter, I believe Maddie, was going to be too old for this book. So yeah, he went and finished it, and he went and said he wanted to write a story for my daughters that told them something I wish I'd known when I was a boy, that being brave didn't mean you weren't scared. Being brave meant you were scared, really scared, badly scared, and you did the right thing anyway. That's so cool. And then now I'm going to the first chapter. It has this really cool illustration in it. I also just realized it has, you know how authors will go and say something about the book? Well, it has Lemony Snicket, and it says, "This book tells a fascinating and disturbing story that frightened me nearly to death." It made me think of Steph Morgan and her entire series that she did, going and reading A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket and her reaction to it. If you haven't watched it already, I highly recommend it. It was so good, and as someone that read the book series years and years ago, it was so much fun to go and see someone's reaction to reading it for the first time ever, and definitely made me want to go and reread it. But I thought that was really cool that Lemony Snicket had like a little comment about the book as well in it. But getting back to it, because obviously I'm squirrel-brained and just getting distracted by everything. Okay, so I'm at page 21, so chapter 3. This is a really small book and short, so probably won't do too many check-ins. But yeah, so far, just because I'm so familiar with the movie and I've watched the movie a million times, there's certain parts and lines in here where I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's similar to the movie, some of the quotes and everything. There's some descriptions that are a little bit different, but you know, that's of course gonna be normal. They're gonna make things different, of course, in the movie to make them more enticing and interesting for the audience to watch. But so far, one of the things that I'm noticing is like, there's no Wybie. There's no Wybie or his grandma or anything like that, or the Pink Palace basically not allowing people with children to live in the flats in the Pink Palace. So yeah, that part's a little bit interesting. There's also no mention of a doll. So yeah, those are some of the differences that I'm seeing so far between the book and the movie. But yeah, just wanted to go and talk about that. I also do want to show you the picture that is on this chapter. I believe this is the other mother, and for some reason she just kind of looks like a nun to me. I don't know. Like, she looks creepy, but she seems a bit like a nun. So yeah, just switching up my spot, and I'm very excited to continue reading. Okay, so checking in again, I'm at chapter 4, and up until that point, Coraline hasn't been through the door yet, but in chapter 3, she did. And she hasn't, up until this point, she hasn't been trying to get through the door. She hasn't had any experiences, but after she goes to the clothing store to get some school clothes with her mom, and then her mom leaves once they get home, realizing that there's no food to eat, Coraline then takes the key down and she goes to see if she can unlock the door and see what is through it. So this time, instead of that brick wall that's originally there, she sees a hallway and goes through it. And one of the things that I'm noticing is that in the movie, when she goes through that door, everything is more welcoming, more friendly, more happy, more enticing. And in the book, it seems like it's kind of the opposite. Like, everything is the same, like her current house. However, things seem a little bit more eerie, a little bit more sinister, and not as welcoming. So it's definitely a little bit different, and I'm very interested to see how things continue. She has met the old man that lives above her, and she did get to go and see his jumping mice. However, it seems like the mice are rats instead, right from the get-go, and they sing instead of playing instruments. So yeah, definitely a little bit different. So I'm gonna continue reading from here. All right, just checking in again, making a dent in it. I mean, it's easy book since it's middle grade, but I'm on page 80, and so far some of the things are kind of similar. I don't want to get too into details because spoilers and things like that, but it does seem like all the animals in the book can go and talk, whether that's hearing their voices like in the back of your head or they're actually speaking like another person. But yeah, up until this point I was kind of wondering if we'd learn about any other children that the other mother took, and it does seem like part of that is happening. So similar to the movie, there's a portion where the other mother gets mad at Coraline and ends up going and throwing her into the mirror and says that she can come out when she learns to be a loving daughter. And now we're going to learn about some of the other spirits. So that's right where I am right now, and I'm very excited to see what else the book has. Okay, I'm getting a little bit worried because my camera is definitely acting up and seeming a little bit glitchy, so that is nerve-wracking right now. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, I'm at page 103 and just wanted to show one of the images in the book. I really love the drawings that I'm seeing throughout the book that I'm coming across, and I don't know if that's in, you know, the normal version of the book or anything like that, but I definitely am really enjoying it in mine. And so far where I'm at right now currently is Coraline and the other mother are playing a game. Coraline is trying to get her parents back, as well as the souls of the children that she's taken them from. And up until this point, it does seem like things are very much following how they are in the movie, minus a few things. And one of the things I'm noticing is like there's not the line where people are saying that the other mother only created parts of the world that would impress Coraline and that she would enjoy and that she would love. There's not some of those pieces to attract and entice Coraline that are more present in the movie. So that's one thing I'm noticing there, but I really do want to go and rewatch the movie and just kind of see how things go and compare, and what I'm noticing, especially now that I'm reading the book again. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm having a very good time. I think one of the things that is different with this book for me, reading it this time around, I definitely feel like I would rate it a lot higher than I did in the past. I feel like the last time I read it, I would have probably rated it under a 4. But this time around, I think I do either 4.25 or maybe 4.5 stars. I am very much enjoying it and seeing like why it would scare someone if they read this at a certain age and they were younger. So yeah, we'll see how things go. I probably won't check in again until I actually finish the book, but I am getting fairly close, so I'll check in a little bit. Okay, so I just finished Coraline, and yeah, I think I'm actually gonna rate it 4.5 stars. Just kind of thinking about like how I would have read it as a little kid, and I would have really been, you know, terrified and interested and wouldn't have been able to put it down. But yeah, it was really good. I saw a lot of the similarities that I remember from the movie, just reading the book this time around. And there were a few differences. I won't go too into details, but one of the moments, like when Coraline confronts the other father, was very different in the book and would have been extremely terrifying as a younger kid going and reading it. So the version that they had in the movie was a lot less scary and I guess like more cute in a way. I think what I'm gonna do is probably grab the movie and go and put it on so you can watch it and see what is different. All right, so the book has been read and the movie has been watched, and it is time to share my thoughts and also take these off before my eyes go all wonky. So, the book was really good. I actually enjoyed it better watching it a lot later versus when I watched it around when I read it around 5 years or so ago. I just liked it a lot more now that I'm older, and there were a lot of pieces that I really appreciated for it, and also where I was like, what would it feel like if I read this as a little kid, you know? So yeah, there was that. And then of course the movie. I know every single word in the movie by heart. One of my all-time favorite movies, and it still doesn't disappoint at all. Now, I think I'm gonna add a little spoiler piece here and kind of talk about some of the differences that I noticed between the book and the movie itself. Now, of course, they're gonna make the movie longer. They're gonna add more details because this is a short book. There's only so much that they could go and include from the book in the movie. And, you know, still make it long enough, make it enjoyable enough, and all those details. So with the book, they definitely made it a lot more eerie. They went and added certain pieces, such as when Coraline goes through the door, it's actually a lot more malicious. You know, everything doesn't seem as welcoming, and even the other parents, it's like something feels a little bit off. Whereas the movie, when she goes in there, everything is a lot more welcoming, everything is very homey. Like, her other parents seem like the perfect family. Like, her other mother is cooking, whereas in the real world, her father, he makes the food and he's an awful cook. So yeah, in the movie, it definitely makes sense how Coraline is like, this actually seems like a perfect world, and she like wants to keep going through the door to go and see the world that the other mother has built for her. So with the book, she actually goes through the door, I believe around 2 times, but it's definitely different than it was in the movie because Coraline goes through once and then she ends up going and leaving, tries to go and hide the key, and then realizes her parents are missing and she has to go back through the door. I also think that some of the things that they changed in the movie made sense. When Coraline is trying to get back her parents and when the souls of the little ghost children, one of the first people that she ends up going and seeing to get one of those souls back is her other father. Now in the book, he's actually one of the last people that she meets, and I won't go too into details, but it was a lot more creepy. And so I definitely understand now why some of my friends that read this book when they were a lot younger were maybe traumatized or scared of this book and have not watched the movie. So the way that they did it in the movie itself, they actually had Coraline go and face the other father first. And he was actually in an environment that the other mother created just for Coraline. And I think that's one of the pieces I really liked too, that they added in the movie. In the book, they didn't really talk about the fact that like the world was built for Coraline to go and entice her and make her want to stay and sew the buttons in her eyes. So in the movie, sorry, Kiko's butt is just getting in the way. In the movie, they really emphasized that a lot more. And so each one of the areas that Coraline goes into to find a soul or her parents, basically when she achieves her goal of finding the missing piece, then that place kind of falls apart. It no longer exists in the beautiful color that the other mother created it in. So I really did like that piece too. There's definitely pieces that I enjoy in both. Like if you really want to be more thoroughly creeped out, then the book is probably the way to go. But I still think that the movie in and of itself is very creepy too. And in the book, they kind of hinted at a way that like the other mother was very like spider-like, but they really emphasized that more in the movie, especially with the cocoa beetles from Zanzibar moment. Definitely love that. Like I said, I know most of the quotes from the movie itself. And then last thing that really bummed me out. So we know the doll in Coraline. We know the doll is the other mother's spy. Well, that doesn't exist in the book at all. And it really is a bummer because I feel like that added such a beautiful piece. And I know that the movie is based off of the book, but the movie is still probably outranking the book just a little bit more for me because I adore this movie so much. But yeah, there's no doll that's the other mother's spy, and there's no YB that gives Coraline the doll that ends up going and basically opening the door to everything that happens. YB in the movie does have a few lines that were quoted in the book, so I thought that was a really good addition. But yeah, YB, the doll, they do not exist in the book at all. However, that is probably, I think, the comparisons that I'm gonna do for spoilers. I try to keep the spoilers to a minimum if possible, because I do believe that if you haven't watched the movie, you should definitely watch the movie. And if you haven't read the book and you've watched the movie, definitely read the book. But yeah, this was so much fun. I love Coraline. So when they actually brought Coraline back to theaters last year, we ended up going and seeing it, and we got to see a lot of the ways that they went and created the show, like what kind of animal hair they used for Coraline's hair. I believe it was actually goat hair. It was one of the few that they could get to actually, I believe, keep the color as well as some of the different hairstyles that she had. But it was so neat. So if that doesn't show you how much I love this movie and the story, Charles and I also, I can't remember with all the other clips that I filmed, but I can't remember if I've shown you our costume from last year where we dressed up as the other mother and other father, which is actually how I have glasses. Charles actually has a pair too. I'm not quite sure where they are, but I love these so much, and I will probably be redoing this costume again at some point for a future Halloween. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, if you love Coraline as much as me, please let me know in the comments below. I don't know if there's like a button emoji, but I think there's like a spool of thread. So if you've gotten this far and if you love Coraline, please leave some spools of thread down in the comments below. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I can't wait to do more videos like this in the future. But with that being said, I need to wrap it up because I need to make a cake for Charles's birthday. But I love you all, and always remember that you're worthy and capable of amazing things. Bye. They're cocoa beetles from Zanzibar. I don't know why that's the only quote I can think of right now. I got my wuss-puss. Cicero, are you the wuss-puss? Yeah, I don't know where Finn is currently, but Cicero will do for the wuss-puss.